Today our video is going to discuss the different types, the parts of the saddle, the different types of saddles, and then also how to attach your cinch to the saddle using different types of off billets. Most of these Western saddles, I've got 3 Western saddles sitting here. Most of these Western saddles are going to have basically the same parts. They've all got a horn, and that's going to obviously be for the rider to hang on to if they need to, or to use to balance themselves. But once we develop in our riding, we try to rely less and less upon holding the saddle horn. This part of the saddle is called the swells. Swells on this saddle. And then this is a barrel racing cutting combination saddle. It's a little older, and so the swells are a little higher, a little wider on it to kind of help somebody grip the front of that tree if the horse was making quick movements to the side. And then of course the seat of the saddle. This is a padded seat. All of these actually have padded seats. Occasionally you'll find some of these Western saddles that have a hard seat, but these all have padded seats. This is the cantle, C-A-N-T-L-E, cantle. And that's going to be at the back of the seat to kind of help push your body forward into the pocket. Every saddle has a pocket. The better saddles are going to have a nicer, more comfortable pocket than say a cheaper or lower quality saddle. These saddles that we use for our classes here are kind of mid-quality type saddles. This is actually a training saddle, and the reason that we know that it's a training saddle is because it has the little D-rings attached on there. It's a rough out saddle. The rough leather is to the outside. It's kind of smoothed over there where the contact's been made by the legs of the rider. This is another rough out saddle, training saddle that has D-rings tied on it, or excuse me, attached to it. And then this is a barrel racing saddle that is a little older, but it's also a combination barrel racing cutting type saddle. It's got a real flat pocket, going to help you stay balanced over that horse's center of gravity as the horse makes quick lateral movements side to side. So moving on down, the part of the saddle right here that you see is going to be called the jockeys. You can see the leather's a little bit different. Another thing that varies is the seat size. This saddle is a 16-inch seat measured from here to where the padding ends. I'm pretty sure this is a 17-inch seat saddle, and this is probably about a 15-inch saddle. So you can see they kind of get smaller there. The jockeys again. Then you have the skirts. You've got usually a top skirt and a bottom set of skirts. This particular saddle just has the single skirt. You'll notice that it has a rigged in-skirt D-ring rigging right there, where it's actually the D-ring that will allow you to connect the saddle to the cinch and buckle it around the horse's midsection is actually riveted in. This particular saddle is what we call a full double rig. You can see that it's rigged over the tree of the saddle. And here's another in-skirt rigging with a D-ring rigged up into the skirt of the saddle. They're just different styles. There's not one that necessarily is any better than the other. Some types of rigging fit horses better than others. And there again, they fit different types of horses. Different horses based upon the way their shoulders are made may ride better in an in-skirt rig saddle versus a double rig saddle. So one thing we should probably mention at this point in relation to the rigging, in relation to the different styles of saddle, is basically every saddle has a tree, and you can think of the tree as like the skeleton of the saddle. Most of your good quality trees are going to be made out of wood and covered in rawhide, and you can actually see the tree by kind of peeling back the jockey, and I'm kind of scratching the edge of that tree with my finger there. And so some of your trees are going to be made out of fiberglass or plastic. Those are your more lightweight or cheaper quality trees. Your better quality trees will typically always be made out of wood and covered with rawhide and fiberglass. There are some treeless saddles out there in production. We don't have any here, and we don't typically use anything like that in our program. But for the purpose of the saddles that we're going to talk about in my classes, they all have a tree, and the tree would be like the skeleton, and then all the parts of the saddle fit down over that skeleton or over that tree. And so when you talk about the rigging of this particular rigging, the in-skirt style rigging that you see on the two saddles on the ends down here, that's designed to give a little bit more of a close contact feel to the horse for the rider. In other words, there's less bulk underneath the rider's legs, and so therefore you don't have as much interfering with the contact that you make with the horse. This particular style with the in-skirt, or excuse me, the full double rigging, that's actually, you can see it is bolted or screwed down over the tree and stitched to the tree and connected with rawhide and leather straps. That type of rigging is going to provide just a little bit more bulk underneath the rider's leg. It's probably going to be a little bit more durable than an in-skirt rigging. Maybe a little bit heavier just because of the amount of leather it takes to attach everything to the saddle. So different styles fit different needs, different disciplines. The next thing is the cinch strap or the latigo, and each one of these saddles has a latigo or cinch strap hanging from the D-ring. This is the side view that you're getting right now is actually the near side or the left hand side of the horse. This will be the side of the horse that we do most of the work from. We'll put our saddle on from the horse's left side. We'll tighten our cinch up from the horse's left side. We'll get on from the horse's left side. We'll get off the horse from the left side. So we call that the near side. These saddles all have back D-rings of some sort. They're not rigged up. This one just has a slot instead of a D-ring, but they're all rigged up to have a back flank cinch, but we've taken those off for the purpose of our classes. The reason we do that, it just gives the beginning student less things to worry about when it comes to saddling up their horse. These are the fenders, and the fenders on each one of these saddles cover up our stirrup leathers. The stirrup leathers are what allows you to adjust the length of the stirrups up or down depending upon the length of the rider's legs. The way that they work is you have a stirrup hobble strap that kind of contains everything. We'll take that off. Then we have what's called a Blevins buckle. It's called a Blevins buckle because the people that invented it, their name was Blevins. And so that Blevins buckle slides up and down and reveals this little post buckle. and then you can adjust that down to make the stirrups longer or adjust it up to make the stirrups shorter based upon the needs of that rider. Once you buckle it, slide that keeper back down over the buckle, it should be set to go. Most of our saddles have the stirrup leathers twisted with some leather wrap just to help make it easier for the rider to put their foot in that stirrup. This is the stirrup. It's where the rider's going to put their foot when they're riding. And then our hobble strap, our stirrup hobble strap, goes back on. We'll just kind of bind everything back up together underneath that and buckle it down. And you want to do that so that it keeps the excess stirrup leather from getting wrapped up around the rider's toe. I have seen where this is hanging down and then it makes it difficult for the rider to get their foot in and out of the stirrup, especially if they needed to in a hurry. This particular saddle, the stirrup leathers have not been twisted. You can kind of see the difference. They've been hung with a broom through the stirrups that helps twist them a little bit, but the stirrup leathers haven't been wrapped, and so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to keep your foot in the stirrup on a saddle like this versus one where it's turned so easily by those leather wrappings. What we've done is we've turned our saddles around so that you guys can see the other side. Pretty much everything's the same as far as the stirrups go. The jockeys, the fenders, the skirts, the rigging, pretty much everything is the same, with the exception of on this side we have a little keeper to buckle our cinch up to, and our other saddle doesn't actually have that. Some saddles do, some don't. It just kind of depends on the style of saddle. But these two training saddles do have that, and I'll show you what that's for once we get to that point of our video. But the other difference is the way the cinch is going to be rigged to the saddle. This particular offside strap or offside latigo is just one single piece of leather that's been doubled over. Whereas on this saddle we're going to use a half-breed latigo that's a little longer, and it allows a little bit more adjustment. It does put a little more bulk underneath the rider's leg, but it does allow for more adjustment if you're riding a variety of horses. And I'll just go ahead and start talking about how to put it on first. And so the way that you're going to attach your saddle, or excuse me, your cinch to your saddle is with this offside latigo. Offside latigos are always going to loop through, or at least these half-breeds are going to loop through the cinch first and go through the D-ring on our saddle. And then you have quite a few holes here to buckle to. You can kind of see that we can make it bigger if we need to, or make it shorter if we need to, make it longer if we need to, depending upon the size of the horse. And then we just kind of pull everything down so that it's even. We want to make sure that the post on our buckle is in the center of that strap. It's not off to one side or the other. That's going to cause it to twist underneath the horse. And then we just tuck the tail of our offside latigo or our half-breed down into the little pocket on our cinch. And then this will buckle up to that keeper. And that just keeps everything from dragging the ground as we're transporting our saddle from the tack room on in there and getting ready to put it on the horse. Another thing that you might notice is this particular saddle has a breast collar that's attached, and we have a few of our horses that are a little bit heavier made and wider horses, and lots of times we'll use a breast collar on those horses to help keep the saddle stabilized. Without that breast collar, the saddle might have a tendency to roll one way or the other. or it might have a tendency to slide back. And so we're trying to help stabilize the position on that saddle and keep it where it needs to be. And so we would put a breast collar on her. Not all of our horses need it, so not all of them use it. So here's another type of just a regular offside latigo. And we'll just attach our cinch in a similar fashion, buckling it just through the straps like that. We'll tuck the tail of it down in, and then we can use that little keeper to keep our cinch up out of the way. When you get ready to adjust the cinch on the horse, you just pop that loose and then drops the cinch down. You can adjust it however need be. This last little saddle down here, our barrel combo saddle, actually has a nylon latigo, or excuse me, a nylon offside latigo, or nylon offside cinch strap. But it buckles the same way that a leather one would. And since it doesn't have a keeper, we'll just lay the cinch over the seat of the saddle like so.